What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Mewzings Podcast studio. I am excited to be joined today by somebody I'm going to say is probably my first underground comic creator, Mr. Sam McClurg. How you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I've got you on here and I'm ready to learn about the underground scene. I'm vaguely familiar, but I'm sure I'm going to get a little bit of an education.
I look forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So let's start off with a basic question to pose to you here. What drew you to more of the underground style of comics?
Yeah, so I guess to kind of preface my a little bit of my history with comics, um I started reading comics a little later, when I was probably late middle school, early high school. Uh
Okay.
the whole reason why I got into comics was it was the same year that the Dark Knight had come out.
Oh yeah.
And so Batman was at the highest of the high, and I'm 32 to kind of put it into perspective a little bit.
Gotcha.
So I was old enough I'm from Columbus, Ohio originally, so I really wasn't allowed to roam around a lot because it was a bigger city. So once I got a little older, my friends and I were, able to kind of walk around, go to the comic shops. So when I first walked into a comic shop, I was like, "Oh, this is really overwhelming. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to see." And growing up, like I said, I've never looked at comics. I never saw comics. Of course, I knew like Batman was and the Hulk and whatever,
Right.
but had zero experience reading. Um, so I walked in and I had pulled this. I don't know if you've ever read this before, but it's Joker,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Brian Azzarello, and Lee
Yes.
Bermejo. So this is the very first comic I ever read.
I have that one as well. Yeah,
Uh,
that's a great one.
and I walked in and I said I'm into Batman, and that's what the dude behind the counter had gave to me, and that
Yeah.
was the newest book at the time, graphic novel wise, and the dude gets skinned and thrown out on a strip club
Yep.
stage like within the first 10 pages of that book, and I think that kind of explains a lot for the
Yeah.
kind of comics that I make.
In
Um,
explicit detail in the way that that artist can portray. It's pretty jarring.
yeah, and I got and then I started getting more into like the new 52 was like the big thing at the time. And I was a really big uh Aquaman apologist, so I was big into that Aquaman run.
Okay.
And then once I went into the Marine Corps, I still read a lot of comics, but a lot of that kind of went down a lot because I was in the Marine Corps. I really didn't have time to read a lot of comics and things like that. And then I basically had gone through a divorce at the time too as well. So then I was like really hurting for money, and then I'm sure like a lot of people they kind of lose interest in comics, and then their entire collection they sell it off.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh,
that story on more than one occasion now.
yeah. And then I probably like a year and some change ago, I was just kind of like I wanted to start reading comics again and getting into comics, and then kind of went down a YouTube rabbit hole, discovered cartoonist kayfabe, and then here I am. Now I'm making comics, so it's like I was telling you before we started, it's like Ed and Jim are like the reason why I make comics,
Right.
and just like going from more like fanboy stuff, reading, uh, you know, Batman, Aquaman, and like whatever else I was reading like prior to that. Um, like I didn't even know that like undergrounds and like alternative comics really existed because I've never was introduced to that kind of stuff. And as soon as I discovered that stuff through the cartoonist kayfabe dudes, it was like a lightning bolt went off in my back, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I can make comics. And then now I'm here. So
That's amazing, man. So it kind of illuminated that whole new world for you and made you realize that, hey, man, anybody with the idea and with the passion can go out and create comics.
yeah, it like my entire like artistic background really. I'm a musician by trade, so that's what I went to school for. Even it was sound engineering and music production. And growing up, like I played in hardcore punk bands, a drummer, so on and so forth. And then so I was completely self-taught. So then when I went to school and had auditioned and everything like that, I got accepted, which I was like surprised by because all the other musicians, they're classically trained. played orchestra, school
Yeah,
band, so on and so forth, and I came from none of that, and I still made it into music school. Um,
that's really cool.
Unfortunately, though, it's like one of those things that doing it every day was kind of robbing me of my joy of playing music, and then plus as well, and more in the production role, you're kind of beholden to what's getting fed to you, and you having to work on that. So whatever bands come to you, it's like, hey, we need somebody to come in
Yeah,
and play on this or record this,
it's
so on and so
killing
forth.
your creative freedom is
Yeah,
neglected a little bit in that regard.
too many egos involved too. So
Yeah, yeah, too many chefs in the kitchen at that point. Did you have a interest in art prior to all of this? Like you were obviously creative and you got into music, so you had that creative spark. Were you that kid that kind of did some little doodles and sketches in school? And was that something that you've kind of focused in on more over the past year or so when you decided that you're going to create your book?
yeah, I wouldn't say that I was anything ever more than a doodler. Um, I had a friend of mine growing up who he graduated from CCAD as an animator. And so he was always like super artistic and could draw his ass off. So I was always
Yeah.
around that a lot, and he would have we'd do like composition drawings to where it would just like he would draw something and pass the paper to me, and I would draw something on it.
Yep.
It never really progressed any further than that, but when I was playing in bands and things like that, like album covers, t-shirt designs and all that kind of stuff, I was graphic designing all of that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I did have experience doing that, and then all of my drawing for the most part, I did engineering classes all through high school, and then as well I was an engineer in the Marine Corps, so I do a lot of drafting. So when you look at my work, and Sean Crystal is a mentor of mine,
Oh,
and
Sean's awesome, man.
yeah, I love Sean. He's a good, and he kind of gave me a lot of feedback, like you draw very angularly and very straight lines. And then after I explained to him that I think that becomes from all of the drafting that I have in my background, it's
Yeah,
because I'm over here with the T square and triangles and everything. And he's like, that makes a
exactly.
lot of sense. So it's just something that's just in my DNA.
Yeah. Yeah, has he been kind of trying to give you some tricks to loosen up a little bit and get away from that?
Yeah, the one person who really nailed me on that was Jim Rugg actually, and he's like start using French curves. So then I have like four or five different sizes over here on the wall that I try to implement to my work a little bit. But every time I'm drawing buildings and everything like that, they always just come out looking like a blueprint.
the muscle memory, the
Yep.
muscle memory kicks in, man. You can't deny your training, right?
Yeah.
When you were getting this creative spark to start making your own books, what was that journey like? Did you saw the cartoonist kayfabe? You know, you were obviously inspired by Ed and Jim and everything, and probably Tom Scioli and all those guys. You know, that part of that group. And you decide, okay, I want to make my own book. Did you already have some ideas in the back of your head for it at that point?
Yes. So I've always had like a want or I guess like a desire to make something like growing up as well. I'm sure that a lot of creative people have done things like this, but I would record myself like doing like fake radio stations
Mm-hmm.
when I was growing up as a kid, or I went through like a emo gothy phase where I thought Edgar Allan Poe was like the greatest thing on the planet, so I was like writing like edgy poetry when I was in like 6th grade. So I always had like this niche for like wanting to write and to create stuff, and then as well I grew up in the Jackass era.
Oh yeah.
So me and my friends would go out and make skate videos and would just do stupid stuff all the time, recording stuff, putting it on YouTube and everything like that. So um, I always had that niche to create and to make things. And once I came to the realization, like the real spark besides like kayfabe was like, oh, I could do this, was I was getting into the kayfabe stuff, and then I realized that there are comics that are on like a really high scale, and there are comics that are at the bottom of the barrel. And I went to my comic shop, and I'm like, I'm kind of curious to see what more like local indie cartoonists are doing. So I walked over to the local section. I'm like opening up these books, and I'm like, oh, this is not the greatest thing I've ever
You're
seen.
already
Like,
like I'm comfortable I could do something equivalent or better than.
Exactly. So then that's kind of like I'm gonna see if I can do this. And um I had reached out to a bunch of people who had that influence, like Jim Rugg, like I said, Sean Crystal, Jim Mahfood, all those kind of guys. And Sean Crystal kind of he leveled with me on a human level and was like, "Hey man, like if you're serious about this, like I'll open up the platform to you and just go." He brought me on Ink Pulp Live, and I
That's
basically,
amazing.
yeah, and that was like the very first thing I ever did. I didn't even have a comic underneath my belt, nothing. And he's like, "If you're serious, like I'll let you go." And I showed up with my money basically, and
That's such
yeah,
a crazy opportunity to get so early on, man. That's so cool.
yeah.
The Ink Pulp guys, man, I love their stuff. I love watching their podcasts and everything, and just how they create, and the creative freedom that they inspire and everything is really cool. What for the listeners, and for maybe even for myself that isn't, I'm not as familiar with the indie or underground scene. What is it that really sets it apart and makes it unique compared to mainstream comics, in your opinion?
Uh, for me, and the reasoning why I love them so much is you never know what you're going to get. So when you walk into a comic book shop and you're staring at the book of walls, or the wall of books I should say, that they have there. When you pick up a Batman comic, it's going to be a Batman comic. When you pick up a
Yeah.
Green Lantern comic, it's going to be a Green Lantern comic. When you pick up an underground comic, you have no idea what's going to be in that thing. And it ranges from the spectrum from weird superhero-y stuff to what did I just read. So
Yeah.
that's like the main thing that I love about them is it can, and plus they can go anywhere, so like they don't have to stay grounded. Like you can just go off the wall with stuff and it plays.
Yeah.
And then as well, like your artistic ability doesn't have to be the greatest. And being in like that underground kind of category, you get a lot of passes, I think, because it's like it's not about the anatomy, it's not about this, it's more about like the creativity. So I don't know if you know who like Gary Panter is. He's a really big influence of mine.
I've heard the name. Yeah.
He was the art
I'm
director
more
for Pee Wee's
familiar with.
Playhouse. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew the name from somewhere. I'm more familiar with like R. Crumb and people like
sure.
that. Yeah. And then, of course, Jim and Ed and those guys. So it's very accessible. It is what I'm hearing. It's kind of accessible to everyone. Anybody can get in there and create and tell their story and get their ideas down on the page. Without as much judgment, I guess. It almost sounds like you don't have that pressure looming over you. You're having fun and you're going in and you're creating and expressing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you know who Tim Vigil is.
Yes.
But I'm a big Tim Vigil guy, and that's something that when I first started making comics, I was talking with Sean Crystal, and I was like, I don't want to like have that like notation of like you're a creep, like things that like when somebody would be seeing you reading a Faust comic, like they're like excuse me, like is there something wrong with you, like. And
Right.
and I completely understand that, but he is what he how he explained it to me was he's like, think about this. He's like, you kind of want to be in that box because there aren't very many people that are willing to be in that box. And he's like, and if you're gonna put yourself in it, then just run with it. And after he kind of told me that, I was like, yeah, I should probably just stay in the lane that I know and just push it as far as I can take it.
Yeah. It sounds like you approach this. It sounds like you have a passion for writing, in the writing side of things and the creativity in that regard, and then the art is kind of facilitating your ability to tell your story. So, is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like ultimately is what my final goal is to kind of be like a Dentist Kitchen knockoff to where it's like I'm an underground cartoonist, but I'm also publishing other underground cartoonists. So he ran Kitchen Sink, which I'm from Wisconsin, and Kitchen Sink is based out of Wisconsin. And my very first art mentor is Ray Farabach, and he was the art director there for like 15 years
Oh,
or
very
so.
cool.
So I have an attachment kind of to that label a little bit, and I'm inspired by that to where it's like you can still make cartoons and then as well like publish other people that you like, and that way they can get their comics out there and everything like that. Because underground comics, I think they should be more accessible. You should be able to walk into any comic shop and be able to get that stuff, rather than having to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to find it. So.
Yeah. Now with underground books, is are there like publishers and imprints, or is it more just kind of every man for themselves getting their own books made and publishing on their own? Like a lot of the underground or indie stuff I see, it can have a wide range. Like it could be something that somebody, printed out on their own printer and folded and stapled, all the way to something, maybe that they're getting produced at a printer and getting the book shipped to them, and then, sending them out, or getting their local shop to display them and all that kind of stuff. Is there anybody out there that's kind of sought after or looked to as, oh, this is the underground publisher, this is who you want to go to get your book seen? Or is it more just put your own stuff out there and hope it goes well?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it definitely is just more into self-publishing. Probably the only like big publishing company I could think of that would dip their toes in that kind of stuff is probably Fantagraphics.
Okay.
They're the ones that like published Ed Piskor's Red Room and things like that. So they're typically okay with that kind of stuff, but they wouldn't things with Fantagraphics though, they wouldn't fly with like bad anatomy, bad drawing, because it's like they're like the cream of the crop in terms of publishers. Like their standards are
Yeah.
extremely high. Um, but in like the 60s and 70s and like the 80s even, there were definitely were a lot of publishers that were publishing mainly just undergrounds. There was like Rip Off Press, and then like Zap Comics and things like that. Like those were all our Crumb brands. And then like Rip Off Press, Gilbert Shelton. He did Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like that's like a really good underground book. So then he was publishing people's stuff. Like basically all those cartoonists came out of the 60s, 70s San Francisco Bay Area scene, and everybody's publishing each other's books, so on and so forth. And into the 80s, that stuff was still kind of around a little bit, and then like 90s onward, I would say most of it is just straight black and white, take it over to a Xerox type of
Yeah.
thing.
If we still had Kinko's, you'd probably be taking it to Kinko's.
Yeah, but it's 2025, so I got mix 'em.
There you go. So, take me through the process of creating your book. And did you or do indie or underground creators do Kickstarters and stuff like that to get things going? Or is it more of a different avenue for you guys to, you know, basically, how do people get your stuff on a wider scale if they want to get your stuff? Are you leveraging social media and online, platforms to be able to help get your books to a wider audience?
Yeah, so I do run my YouTube channel. I've been doing that since October of last year, and I'm coming up close to 1,000 subs now. Um,
Yeah, you're doing great for that short on YouTube. That's awesome, man.
yeah, I did a Todd McFarlane video, probably like around earlier this year, and like just off that video alone, I got like 600 subs. It blew up for whatever reason, and pretty much every time I post a video, I'll get 10 to 20 subs off of a single video. So I try to
That's
be,
great.
yeah, I try to be try to stay on that schedule. Every 2 weeks, I have a video that comes out, and then every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, I stream on my channel. So I can do anything from like book reviews, art, you name it. Everybody has a live stream nowadays, but I do
Yes.
that. And I'm trying to remember uh, what your preface was for that for the question. I
I
lost my
was just saying that the means of getting your stuff out,
sure.
of producing your book and getting it to a wider audience.
So I have two different ways that I distribute my stuff, and it's a little bit outside the box. Well, the first one really isn't that much outside the box. It's literally just I cold call comic shops and I cold email comic shops. It's very old school, hitting the pavement, walking into places. Like there's a record store downtown here. They don't sell any comic books, and I walked in. I have a denim jacket and I have an Akira patch on it, And the
Nice.
guy behind the counter was just like, "Oh, is that an Akira patch?" And then we started talking about comics, and he was the owner. And then now I have comic books sitting in that record shop. So it's just like things like that, just
Sweet.
like the networking and everything. And then the other thing is as well, I work with like a network of artists, like you had Tyler on recently, and
Yes.
he actually worked on this book with me. So this was an anthology book
Oh,
that I put out
nice.
earlier this year, and he's in that. So I will work with a bunch of different people, and then when I work with them, I'll be like, "Hey, here's 20 copies," and then just give them the copies, and then we just kind of distribute money and everything else from there. So
Yeah.
it's very DIY punk under the table kind of stuff. And then as well,
Yeah.
like Kickstarter is definitely something that I'm going to do for my upcoming project. That's probably going to launch like towards the tail end of the fall. I'll have that up and ready to go.
Oh, very cool. We're gonna have to have you back on to promote that.
Yeah, I have a page sitting right here. It's like half inked, half screen toned, and half penciled. But this is
Oh, nice.
something that's sitting on there right now.
Little
So
behind the scenes. That's great. And your first, well, how many books have you put out now?
I've put out three this year in a sketchbook, and then
Nice.
I'm gonna have another anthology coming out probably like October November-ish time frame, and then I'll have that full issue out. It's called White Line Deadline is the name of the other book that I'm doing. And that will probably, like I said, I'll probably launch the Kickstarter like late fall, and the thing's already pretty much done. I'm on page 16. I think it's like 24 pages, the first issue. It's going to be a 4 to 5 part miniseries. I have the whole thing thumbnailed. I have the whole thing scripted and done. I've been working on it for like the last like 15 weeks or so. I just graduated from SVS, School of Visual Storytelling, and Jake Parker
Nice.
and Sean Crystal are the instructors there.
Yep. Jake
And
and Sean are really good instructors. I love their videos.
yeah, so I've basically that was the whole purpose of that class was, hey, we're gonna start you from ground zero to here. Basically like how we do thumbnails, all the way to how you scan your artwork in and everything like that. I already knew how to do a bunch of that stuff, but it was still like the writing part of it was what really that course had really helped me with. So after I was kind of like, oh, like this isn't going to be like a professional comic. Like I'm going to actually take this to Kickstarter and make incentives and everything like that. We haven't really got into it at all, but I don't just make comics and content. Like I'm kind of trying to like build an empire, basically.
I
I take
like
a
it.
lot of influence by Todd McFarlane's. So I think cartoonists think a little small, and they're just like, I'm gonna sit over here and scratch away on my paper or my tablet and make comics.
Yeah.
I want it all. So I'm like, I'm hungry, and like I'm out. Like, I mean, I can show stuff that I'm working on.
Yeah, please do. I love the video version of the podcast. I encourage everybody to check it out because you guys always have cool stuff to show and we got to leverage that for sure.
So, like I said earlier, I was an engineer in the Marine Corps. So I have a 3D printer. So I've been making guides. I make
Nice.
I've been making screen tone guides. So like this one specifically, you can see there's a tab on it here.
Yep.
And so then that way when it is on the page, you can lift it up basically.
Yeah.
I've made stencils for some guys. So West Coast Avenger Dave
Oh,
over there
sweet.
made stencils for him. I made stencils for Mateo Scalera. So it's like I have like a side business basically to where it's like I make T-shirts, stickers, stencils for people, you name it, and it's like it's open to everybody. And it's like if you have a logo you want to slap on a T-shirt, or if you want to make like a spray paint stencil, even I can make action figures even. So it's like I can get wild with stuff. So it's like that's just an offer to everybody out there that's listening.
Sweet.
The business is open.
Yeah, we're gonna have to send them your way. I had the creator of the Wham stand on here, and he talked a lot about 3D printing and just it's like he can make anything. He was showing me all the stuff he's done. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's honestly, uh, I really enjoy doing it, and having that engineer background has really helped me a lot with just making comics, but then as well like being able to do this stuff like printing T-shirts and whatever else, and I don't have to rely on other people to do that for me. So like
Yeah.
when I roll into the Kickstarter, all that stuff is in my hands and it's my responsibility rather than being like, I gotta wait on the T-shirts to get printed
Yeah.
and I gotta wait to get stencils made and whatever. It's like, no,
Sorry
I'm making all.
guys, can't
Yeah,
can't fulfill your order yet. Waiting on the sticker guy
yeah.
to or waiting on this guy to get it
It's
done.
it's
Yeah.
all me doing. So
Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's I jokingly I always manifest things on here. You know, I say we got to speak it into being. Tell me more about this empire that you would like to build. I mean, we've already covered some of it, but this Todd McFarlane approach, because I'm very familiar with Todd, and I can hear his voice, what he would be telling you to do, and basically, it's like don't put any limitations on yourself and just run for the cliff and jump off. It's kind of his thing. Take that leap.
yeah, so there is a bunch of interviews, of course, and this is something that he says constantly in interviews. Is like if somebody walks up and he sees that their art is like amazing, he's gonna tell them to not continue to go because he doesn't want them to like overpass him, if that makes sense. Cause he's like it's gonna make me
Right.
want to work harder, so on and so forth. And then he's like, there's gonna be some 20-year-old kid that's scratching away like I'm gonna get Todd, like I'm that guy. So it's not that I'm scratching away on my paper thinking I'm never going to draw better than Todd because that's never going to happen. But it's more of that having the big picture and not just hey, I just want to sit here and make comics. It's like why not roll that into uh, publishing other people's stuff and then uh, TV shows and music and whatever else, magazines, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, I have Todd's. It's called Devils in the Details. I keep this right beside my drawing desk, and
Yep.
every once in a while I open it up and I just see his like denial letters, rejection letters that he has. And there's like 500 of them in that
So
book,
many. Yeah.
and I use that to remind myself like Todd McFarlane was getting all of these no's. That's also going to happen to me, so I need to pivot into my own lane basically, and not necessarily follow in his footsteps, but use some of his teachings and learnings to then build my quote unquote empire. And
For sure.
it, straight up, like I just want to do this full time and not have to work a daytime job. On top of making comics and content and everything like that, but as well, it's like a big proponent why I make a lot of anthology books is because uh, I love underground stuff, as I said earlier. So then getting more people to then make comics is another goal of mine. So then ultimately, like making a publishing company and then kind of building off of that.
There you go. Yeah, that would be cool. Do you have any aspiration to do any kind of work in the future for other publishers? Are you strictly staying in the lane of the underground type of stuff?
So if somebody, I don't think anybody would ever come to me and be like, "Hey, do you want to make a Spider-Man book?" But if somebody were to come to me and say, "Hey, do you want to make a Spider-Man book?" It's like nobody on the right mind would ever turn that down.
Be very hard to turn down, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like there are mainstream books and things like that I do uh that I do like to a certain extent. Like John Romita Jr. Like I hold him up on a pedestal. Like I really like him a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were able to make a book like Punisher Warzone, for instance, which was a book that he did in like the 90s, if you could make a
So
book
amazing.
like that nowadays, like I think I would be like, yeah, like sign me up for that. But I think as Marvel, especially nowadays, they play it so safe with
Very.
everything. DC takes a little bit of more risk, especially with like their absolute stuff. I think they're kind of breaking out a little bit,
They
but
are, yeah.
it's just like hand Jim Mafood like an issue because he does covers and stuff. Like he just has an Iron Man cover that's coming out recently. But it's like give him an entire Iron Man book and just like see what that
Yeah,
dude would. You know what I mean? It's like I want to see stuff like that from mainstream
definitely.
publishers.
Well, and I think it's a I understand why they avoid these independently creative guys like that because they don't want to make any superstars anymore. And they've straight up, behind the scenes said stuff like that because they don't want everything to become about the creators again like it did with the Image guys. You create rock stars out of the creators and then the publisher potentially suffers if all those guys decide to leave. So I think they've got a lot of measures in place to try to avoid that from happening, and they're very selective with who they put on what, and not getting this person too big of a following and this type of stuff. Because if you think about it now, like a lot of the really top level popular guys who would be like the rock stars now, they're doing all their own creator owned stuff or being very selective with what projects they do for the big publishers. Like, look at Daniel Warren Johnson. Like, if he thinks it's sounds fun, okay, yeah, I'll do your Transformers book. Or okay, now he's doing this thing for DC, but he's still working on his sci-fi epic thing that he's been drawing behind the scenes, and has all his creator owned stuff that he wants to put out. So I think there's this kind of trepidation or careful approach that the bigger publishers are taking now when it comes to not over popularizing creators, not creating celebrities out of the creators, right?
No, it's funny that you say that because probably like 3 or 4 months ago on my website, I wrote a blog. I think it's called like The Big Two, and it's literally about that and why I think that the publishers are like afraid to work with smaller people because exactly that, like they're gonna come in and be like, no, it's going to be like this, and I'm not making it your guys' way because that's why you called me in the first place.
Yep.
And using that as leverage, and then as well, I think that independent cartoonists, guys like Jim Mahfood and so on and so forth, like it's going to get to where the big two and Image to a certain extent aren't going to be able to ignore guys like that, and we'll have to buckle and give them a book and then see, oh, because Jim just made like whatever, like 5 to 10 grand on his Savage Street Vigilante book.
Right.
So it's like when you see Kickstarters like that, it's like companies are always going to notice it. So
Yeah.
it's just consistency, really.
Yeah, it really is. It's cool that we live in a time though where there's all these alternative methods of success in the comic industry and varying degrees of uh, success, or being able to, because success is it's all a matter of perspective. Like, my idea of a successful book could be your idea of one that's not that great, and so on and so forth. But creators, independent creators, have all these avenues of being able to get their work out to people. And you're doing your underground thing. There's people that, oh gosh, there's people that literally, I feel like every month there's a new Kickstarter that they are like, bringing in like 200 grand and fulfilling the whole Kickstarter. And it's like the 10th Kickstarter they've done. So nobody is like beholden to the big publishers anymore. Like, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and that drive and that Todd McFarlane approach, you really can go and do some amazing things now, can't you?
Yes, and that's what I always try to tell people during my streams. It's literally just like nobody's stopping you, and the only person that is stopping you from doing something is yourself. So it's like if you really are passionate about something, it's like you will go out and do it. And again, that's just, yeah, exactly something that I've picked up from Todd, and Steve Rude is a really big influence on me as well.
Yeah, the
Um,
dude.
yeah, I mean, when you look at my art, you would never think that Steve Rude is like a top guy for me, but for me,
Right.
it's like it's just his discipline because like the guy never stops learning. He's constantly picking up like a medium, so it's like that drive for me is like what I really love about Steve, and something that I try to take from him. I also think that a lot of people when when they get into comics, there's not lifers, if that makes sense. So people, this is something I saw at SVS, and then just in the comics community in general, you'll see people who will start a comic and then it gets like 75% of the way done, it just gets thrown in a drawer and it never gets
Yeah,
finished, or they will do one and it's like a one and done, and people drop out, especially when they see how much work it is. Because as
for
you're aware,
sure.
it's like comics are crazy with the amount of time and commitment and everything like that you have to put into it. And not a lot of people can dedicate the time to that, or aren't willing to do so. So then it's like kind of a tight group of people, in like the cartoon community, because like everybody kind of has an understanding like it's a big
Yeah.
task to make a comic book.
Misery loves company.
Yeah.
When it comes to your artwork, how much time, and I'm asking this because I know like you're so busy creating, and I'm sure you learn a lot through just working on your book and everything, but how much time do you dedicate to focusing on, keeping the artistic muscles pumped up, and practice and do your figure drawing and everything else? How much time do you tend to devote to that?
So I work 40 to 50 hour work weeks at my day job, and then
Yeah.
after that, right when I'm done, I do nothing but make comics, YouTube videos, so on and so forth, till about midnight my time, and then I go to sleep and
Okay.
wake up at 6, and then pretty much go to work, and then the whole cycle repeats. Um, right now, since I'm like in the midst of drawing a comic, like I'm not doing a lot of sketchbook stuff, but like last year I filled up like 6 sketchbooks, I want to say, like front to back. I all of my figure drawing and things like that I pick up from Steve Root because I think he's like the god tier in figure drawing.
Definitely.
So I practice a lot with that. Um, but yeah, right now it's mainly just drawing pages, getting pages done, and getting stuff ready. Because like when I do the anthology and everything like that, like I front all of the money, I do all of the design work, I do the printing, everything. So I basically juggle like 3 or 4 projects at a time, and that's just pretty much how I roll currently. So
Yeah, sounds like you're definitely busy, and but it sounds like it's you have to get that creativity out.
yeah,
Like
that's
I think you would go nuts if you didn't come home from working all day and then work on your comic too. Like it's probably pretty cathartic for you, to be able to have your creativity flow out, and work on your art and work on your story and all of this.
it for sure. I like my girlfriend was literally just telling me this the other day. Like I understand like working corporate jobs is like soul crushing for you, but like you have to pay your bills, and that's I mean that's 100% true, right? I mean that's just the world
Yeah.
that we live in. Nobody in comics is making money unless you're Robert Kirk. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
just
and look where he started, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's like the iceberg analogy. It's like, oh, look at Robert Kirkman. Look at the tip of the iceberg that's sticking out above the water. Look at all this stuff below that he did, scraping his way up.
Yeah, but one of the things to jump back to your last question that I've picked up with art and then like saving time and everything like that was when I first started I was drawing 11 by 17s. And then after I've decided like that takes way too much time to pencil to ink, and then I do everything physically, so screen tones, everything like that. I got deleters, so I'm
So
sitting
you're strictly traditional then.
pretty much like only digital I do is like when I scan it in and adjust the levels, and that's literally it. Everything else
Right.
is yeah, it's all by hand.
Just to prep it, finalize it for print, you'll take it in and do that.
Yep, exactly. So I started drawing on 9 by 12s, and that's really opened up the game a lot. And then not only do I finish pages faster, but I can get more pages done. So it's like what originally would have taken me, what I'm like page a day guy. So I would have the same amount of time it would have taken me 10 pages. Now I have 20. So,
Perfect.
so yeah, it's just like doubling that page count and just kind of rushing through it and getting it done. And a lot of people would think that because I am working traditionally and not digitally, that working digitally would also speed me up a lot. But coming back from that engineer background and everything like that, for me, it's easier for me to wrap my head around. Hey, here's a piece of paper, here's a pencil, here's a marker,
Yeah.
rather than having to sit and mess around with the Photoshop and figuring that out. And uh, like I'm sure you've seen it, but if you go to Webtoons, all of those
Mm-hmm.
comics are going to be digital, and all of them look the same. So
Yes.
it's like wild to me. It's like you go on the front page of Webtoons, and it's like who's reading this? I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously a million people are because it got a million hits on it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other reasons too why I love working traditionally is being able to set yourself apart a little bit from
Yeah.
digital.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of sameness with digital, especially like It's very hard, like for digital inkers to not develop that sameness because most of them are all using the same tools, and so you see that a lot. And you see a lot of these styles that I'm noticing that are very similar, and these guys are like workhorses. And putting all this stuff out, and their workflow is 100% digital. You see, they're using a lot of I don't want to call them shortcuts, but there are certain advantages to working digitally to be faster. And along with that, I think being that they're all doing the same things, a lot of it is what you're noticing as that sameness. You're like, oh, all these books look really similar.
Yeah,
Well,
and for
they're
me
all
too.
using Clip Studio or Procreate. They're all, potentially importing 3D models of buildings and cars and drawing over them. Like, it's a very common practice.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like when you look at a lot of digital stuff, like for instance, when we were in SBS, somebody comic, which is like whatever, because I think if you're doing a good comic digitally, who cares, right? Like it doesn't make a difference. But when there's a bad digital comic, like it's bad.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where there was like a platoon of like army people standing in a column or a row or whatever, and it was literally just like they took the same person and just copied and pasted them and just clear across, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really like it would have taken you like maybe 30 minutes to an hour to draw different faces on all of those
Yeah.
figures. So
Yeah. And there are examples of artists that pull it off amazingly. Like Jorge Jimenez does an amazing job. He's 100% digital. Uh, Dan Mora is probably one of the reasons that Dan Mora's drawing like 6 books right now. You see, but the quality of his work doesn't suffer for it. So he's got it figured out. Clayton Henry's another one. Those guys are all like, well, I don't know for sure on Jorge or Dan, but I know Clayton Henry, he's 100% iPad like his entire process, and he does amazing work. So the tool can be leveraged to do a great job and help enhance your workflow and everything, but then it could also cause you to potentially get lazy and do something like you just described. You're putting a copy and pasting a bunch of the same figure all in the same position in a line, like so it's a double-edged sword, really.
yeah, and I think that you do, especially if you're starting, like you're losing a little bit of those foundations because there are those shortcuts to where it's like you can make curves and they just snap together and everything like that, in your
Yes.
Photoshop. So it's like if you are starting, I think you should be starting out probably traditionally, at least just like in sketchbooks and everything like that. And if you want to go digital, then go for it. And then just tracing is like a really bad thing digitally, is like you just said. It's like dropping in a 3D model and it's drawing over top of it, and then in some cases they just leave the model, and it's just like, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Leave the model, or they'll just knock the lines out, and they'll do like a couple of filters,
Yep.
to try to pull it off and blend it in. Yeah, but here you go. They're producing monthly work, a lot of those guys. They're working for the big two and they're getting it done. So I guess, who am I to say it's wrong, but it's just not for my taste. I think that's what it comes down to.
No, that's fair to say, and it's like, and if you get a deal, especially with like webtoons, like an exclusivity deal with webtoons, it's like those cartoonists. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to deadlines, like working on deadlines, it's pretty crazy. Like I've had several, bigger name pros on here, and they all are like on that deadline crunch. And so I could see like if you did figure out a way to do it where it was saving you that time to where maybe you're able to get a couple more pages done and be able to spend a hour more with your family each week, you might lean towards doing that, right?
for sure.
Yeah. Man, I've learned a lot about the underground comic scene. Now I kind of want to know, I want to know what we can expect from you. What do you got coming up? You touched on it a little bit. So you've got this Kickstarter you're talking about starting in the fall. Are the books that you've already done, are those still available for purchase anywhere?
Yes, everything is all going to be on my website. It's just sam-mcclurg.com, sam-mcclurg.com, however you want to say that. I got an online shop there, so I have all of my previous work up there. I'm going to be releasing a third anthology book, like I said, probably like October, November-ish time frame. And
Now, just so you know, I know what an anthology is, but
yeah,
let the listeners know what it means when you refer to an anthology book.
sure. So it's basically a bunch of short stories, and I work with a bunch of different people. So I will basically post a form, Google form up in a bunch of different communities, like my community, Ink Pulp, Long Beach Drink and Draw, so on and so forth, like a bunch of different places like that. And we'd be like, hey, here's a form if you guys want to submit something. Like here's the guidelines for it, so on and so forth. And then people send me stuff, and then
Nice.
I take that and design it up, print it out, and then get it out there. Um, I and then like the anthologies themselves, they can be anything from like the most recent one that we did. I actually have a copy of it right here.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
yeah, it's the most recent one that we did, and it was a horror themed one. So it's like everybody kind of uh, did horror themed comics. And this was one of the ones that I did. It's called Ken Stein DDS. It's basically Frankenstein, but he's a dentist.
There you
Um,
go.
the because you're a Todd guy as well. Um, he has this saying that when people draw Venom, they like will give him like perfect teeth, and he's like,
Hmm.
Stop giving monsters perfect teeth. They don't go to the dentist." So I thought it would be funny to
Exactly.
make a monster that was a dentist. So that's the play on that. So
I love it. I love it, man. Clever. That's so cool. Yeah, the level of creativity you're bringing to things is really inspiring. And when you do those anthologies and you put out the call for that, are you just giving a genre and then they're bringing their own stories to that and submitting them?
yeah, that's exactly right. So it's like in the form itself, like I'd be like, hey, I want it to be 2 to 10 pages. It needs to be horror themed. It has to be black and white or grayscale. And then as well, like if you're doing pinups or covers, like that can be colored because those would be on the outsides.
Right.
And just give them the basically like here's your stipulations and then just send it to me. And since I'm an underground publisher, I don't care what it is. I'll publish anything. So if it's like furry stuff or if
Right.
it's dudes doing drugs, if it's kids getting ran over by cars, I don't care. I'll put it in a comic. You know what I mean? As long as it's
Right.
passable. And obviously, it's like I'm not going to be doing anything that's like incriminating or however you want to look
Crossing
at
any
that.
lines. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm still respectful and everything like that. So yeah, I'm not going to cross any of those kind of lines, obviously. But yeah, it's very much like send it to me and make more comics. That's really it.
I can't think of a better way to end the episode than that, man. Send it to you and make more comics. That's great. That's a good slogan. I appreciate you coming on here today, man. I definitely want to have you back on, especially in the fall before that Kickstarter comes out, so we can promote it and let everybody know.
Yeah, I'll for sure like to come back on and like I said, late fall, early winter, it should be up. The comic itself will be completely done at that point. So when the Kickstarter does go up, like you're not going to be sitting around for 5 months waiting for a comic. Like it's as soon as it's done, it's going to go to the printer, and however many copies are being purchased, that's what pretty much going to get printed. And then as well, like I'm already going to be started on the second book, if not already have it done by that time. So I'm going to use kind of number one to then roll into number two, roll into number three, so on and so forth.
Sweet.
So just keep an eye out for that and just follow me on my website, and my YouTube. It's just all under
Yeah, and
my name.
I wanted to give you the opportunity here to direct everybody to those. Let everybody know. You already said the website, but go ahead and let them know about that again, and let them know the name of your YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, it's so my website's just sam-mcclurg.com. I have a blog, a newsletter. I put videos up there. Pretty much anytime like I get a commission or I do a pinup for something, like I just did a pinup for Monty Keaton's You're a Suck at number two. So that like that's up there if you want to see that. And then my YouTube channel, it's the same thing. It's just my name, so it's super easy to find me. It's just Sam McClurg, and I do everything from book reviews to toy reviews. I draw, live art, so on and so forth. So it's like literally the entire spectrum. So come check me out.
Awesome, man. We're going to direct everybody that way. Hang out with me for a moment
Sure.
while I give my spiel to everyone. Everyone who's listening, you are listening or watching. That means you already found the podcast. I greatly appreciate all you guys. I'm having a wonderful time bringing you all these amazing creators and collectors and a wide variety of awesome fellow nerdy people on here. If you enjoy the podcast, go ahead and give us a like, a subscribe, share it with a friend. 5-star review would be cool. And in the meantime, everybody, keep it nerdy.